Have you ever wondered what happens when a girl is given the chance to go to school? It's more than just learning how to read or write. It's the spark that can transform families, communities, and even entire countries. Around the world, millions of girls still wake up every morning without that chance. They're held back by poverty, traditions, or conflicts that say education isn't for them. But here's the powerful truth. When a girl is educated, everything changes. Think about this. Studies show that for every year a girl stays in school, her future earnings increase dramatically. Her health improves, and the health of her future children does too. She's less likely to be forced into child marriage, more likely to break free from poverty, and far more likely to become a leader in her community. The ripple effect of one girl learning stretches across generations, and it's not just numbers. Picture a girl in a small village who becomes the first in her family to finish school. Suddenly, she's able to read medicine labels, understand her rights, and even help her younger siblings with homework. What began with one opportunity for her spreads into hope for everyone around her. That's the real power of girls' education. It multiplies. But here's the question. If the benefits are so clear, why are millions of girls still denied an education? Why do barriers like culture, gender stereotypes, and even wars continue to stand in the way? And what can the rest of us do, whether we live in the US or anywhere else in the world, to make sure girls everywhere have the right to learn? In this video, we'll dive into that story. We'll explore the global picture of education and where progress is being made. We'll hear real stories of girls who faced incredible struggles just to sit inside a classroom. We'll uncover the challenges that keep so many out of school, and we'll celebrate the breathtaking, life-changing impact that comes when girls finally have the chance to learn. By the end, you'll see why educating girls isn't just about fairness or equality. It's about building a stronger world, a healthier world, and a future where every child, no matter where they are born, can rise to their full potential. When we talk about girls' education, it's important to first step back and see the bigger picture. Because while progress has been made, the reality is still deeply uneven. Around the world today, more girls are enrolled in school than ever before in history. In many countries, girls now outnumber boys in secondary and even higher education. This is proof that change is possible. But at the same time, the global statistics reveal a sobering truth. Millions of girls are still being left behind. According to UNESCO, more than 120 million girls worldwide are not in school. That means classrooms sit empty for them. Futures are paused before they even begin, and entire communities miss out on their potential. In sub-Saharan Africa, nearly 1 in 3 girls does not complete primary school. In South Asia, millions of girls drop out before reaching secondary school. And in the Middle East and North Africa, ongoing conflicts have left entire generations of girls without reliable access to education. In refugee camps across the world, the crisis is even sharper. Globally, refugee children are 5 times more likely to be out of school than non-refugee children. For girls, the gap is even wider. A girl forced to flee her home because of war or disaster faces almost impossible odds of completing her education. In fact, the UN estimates that refugee girls are only half as likely as refugee boys to reach secondary school. But geography is not the only dividing line. Even within the same country, the difference between a girl in a rural area and a girl in an urban area can be enormous. In many rural regions, schools are miles away, requiring long and unsafe walks. Families may need girls to stay home to work or care for siblings. Meanwhile, in wealthier urban centers, education may be accessible but comes with hidden costs, uniforms, books, transportation, that still push poor families to leave girls behind. Poverty remains one of the biggest barriers. Families who struggle to afford food and shelter often see education as a luxury, not a right. When a family must choose which child to send to school, boys are often prioritized, while girls are expected to help at home, fetch water, or contribute to the family income. The decision is not always rooted in a lack of love. Sometimes, it's about survival. But the cost of leaving girls uneducated is far greater in the long run. Cultural traditions also play a powerful role. In many societies, girls are married off at a young age, ending their chance of an education before it even begins. Globally, 12 million girls are married before the age of 18 every year. Once married, most are expected to become wives and mothers, not students. Education becomes a closed door. And these traditions often pass from one generation to the next, keeping cycles of poverty and inequality alive. Safety is another barrier. In some regions, simply walking to school can be dangerous. Girls face the risk of harassment, violence, or even abduction. In areas affected by war or extremist groups, schools themselves are attacked, and education is deliberately denied to girls as a form of control. These risks send a chilling message that girls' education is not just neglected, but actively resisted. And then, there's the hidden challenge of resources. Even when schools are available, they are often underfunded, overcrowded, and lacking basic facilities. Imagine being a teenage girl in a school without bathrooms, without textbooks, without teachers trained to support her learning. For many girls, something as natural as reaching puberty becomes a reason to drop out when schools don't provide safe and private sanitation facilities. The conditions quietly push her out of education. But here's the thing. Despite these challenges, there is also hope. Over the last 2 decades, global movements, governments, and local communities have fought to change this picture. Initiatives like free primary education programs, school meal plans, and campaigns against child marriage have helped millions of girls enter classrooms for the first time. Countries such as Rwanda, Bangladesh, and Ethiopia have seen dramatic increases in female school enrollment. International organizations have also stepped in. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 4 is focused on ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education for all. Campaigns like Malala Fund have amplified the voices of girls demanding the right to learn. And NGOs worldwide provide scholarships, school supplies, and mentorship programs designed specifically to support girls who might otherwise be left behind. And yet progress is fragile. Gains made over decades can be lost quickly in times of crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic was a stark reminder. At the peak of school closures, 1.6 billion learners worldwide were forced out of classrooms. For many boys, schools eventually reopened. But for millions of girls, especially in vulnerable regions, those doors never opened again. Studies estimate that more than 10 million girls may never return to school as a result of the pandemic. Each of those girls represents not only a personal loss, but a loss for their communities and societies. So the global picture is a story of both achievement and alarm. We know that education works. We've seen the results, but we also see the millions of girls who remain excluded. And this is where the central question of our video deepens. If we know the benefits and we know the challenges, what will it take to finally close the gap? As we move forward, we'll go beyond the statistics and hear the human stories behind them. Because behind every number is a girl with dreams, with potential, and with the courage to overcome obstacles. And their stories show us not only the scale of the problem, but also the incredible strength that lies in the fight for education. Behind every statistic about girls' education is a real human story. And those stories are often filled with struggles, sacrifices, and incredible resilience. To truly understand the barriers, let's step into the lives of a few girls from different corners of the world. Imagine Amina, a 12-year-old girl living in a rural village in Nigeria. Every morning, she wakes before sunrise to fetch water from a river miles away. By the time she finishes her chores, the school day is already halfway over. Her parents love her, but with 7 children to feed, they cannot afford school fees or uniforms for everyone. The little money they have goes toward her brother's education. For Amina, the dream of sitting in a classroom feels out of reach. Her story reflects the struggle of millions of girls across Africa who are left behind because of poverty and gender bias. Now think about Lakshmi, a teenager from rural Nepal. At just 15 years old, she was told her family had arranged her marriage. For her parents, this was tradition. For her, it meant the end of her schooling. She begged to continue, but her voice carried little weight in a system where girls are expected to become wives and mothers before they become educated young women. Globally, 12 million girls like Lakshmi are forced into child marriage every year, many losing their chance at education forever. And then there's Miriam, a refugee from Syria. She once dreamed of becoming a doctor, but war changed everything. Her family fled their home after their school was bombed, and now she lives in a refugee camp in Jordan. The camp has schools, but seats are limited, and boys are given priority. Miriam spends her days helping her mother, caring for her younger siblings, and holding on tightly to her fading dream of returning to school. She is just one of the countless refugee girls for whom conflict has turned education into a distant hope rather than a basic right. But the struggles are not only about money, marriage, or war. Sometimes they are about dignity. Take the example of young girls in parts of East Africa, where schools lack proper sanitation facilities. When they reach puberty, many drop out simply because they have no private space to manage their menstrual health. It's not because they don't want to learn, it's because the system hasn't made room for them to stay. Something as small as a bathroom becomes the difference between a girl continuing her education or staying home for good. Even in places where schools are free, hidden barriers remain. In parts of Latin America, indigenous girls often face discrimination. Teachers may not speak their language, leaving them unable to follow lessons. Others are bullied for their traditions, clothing, or background. Over time, the emotional weight of being excluded pushes them out of classrooms. Education that should have empowered them instead leaves them feeling invisible. And let's not forget the silent burden of expectations. In many cultures, girls carry the responsibility of caring for younger siblings, cooking, or helping with household work. By the time their brothers finish homework, they are too exhausted to study. These invisible demands quietly steal away their opportunity to learn. Yet despite these struggles, what stands out most in these stories is resilience. Many girls fight against all odds to pursue education. They wake before dawn, walk miles to school, study under candlelight, and hold on to dreams even when the world tells them they don't belong in a classroom. Their determination proves something powerful. Girls want education. They are willing to work for it. What holds them back is not a lack of desire, but a lack of support, opportunity, and justice. These stories show us that barriers come in many forms: poverty, culture, safety, infrastructure, and discrimination. But they also show us something else: the courage of girls who continue to dream despite those barriers. Their struggles remind us that behind every policy debate and every statistic are real lives, real futures, and real potential waiting to be unlocked. For every story of struggle, there are also stories of breakthrough, stories where girls who once faced barriers found a way through, and in doing so changed not only their own lives but the lives of everyone around them. These breakthroughs remind us of what's possible when girls are given the simple, powerful gift of education. Take Malala Yousafzai, for example. As a young girl in Pakistan, she stood up against extremists who tried to deny girls their right to education. She was attacked, silenced, and left for dead. But instead of giving up, she came back stronger, becoming the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner in history and one of the world's most powerful voices for girls' education. Malala's story is proof that one girl with education and courage can move the world. But breakthroughs don't only come from global icons. They happen in everyday lives. In Ethiopia, a girl named Salam once walked miles each day to school with no shoes, often studying late into the night by the light of a single candle. With the support of a scholarship program, she completed high school, went on to university, and is now a teacher in her own village. Because she received an education, hundreds of children, boys and girls, are now learning from her. The ripple effect is undeniable. In Bangladesh, education initiatives targeting girls have completely reshaped communities. Decades ago, the majority of girls in rural areas dropped out by middle school. But with programs offering free school meals, stipends for families, and campaigns to challenge child marriage, the numbers have shifted dramatically. Today, more girls are finishing secondary school and moving on to higher education. The result is not only better opportunities for women but also healthier families, lower poverty rates, and stronger economies. And then there's the story of Zainab in Afghanistan. Despite facing threats from those who opposed girls' education, she secretly continued her studies at home. With determination and community support, she eventually earned a scholarship abroad. Today, she advocates for Afghan girls who are still fighting for the right to learn. Her success shows that even in the darkest circumstances, education can light the way forward. These breakthroughs are not isolated. They are part of a bigger pattern. When girls are educated, everything changes. Research shows that an educated girl is more likely to delay marriage, have fewer and healthier children, and earn higher wages. In fact, according to the World Bank, every extra year of schooling for a girl increases her future income by up to 20%. Multiply that by millions of girls, and the economic impact becomes transformational. But the benefits don't stop with economics. Educated women are more likely to participate in decision-making, to lead in politics, and to advocate for social change. Countries with higher levels of female education are more stable, more democratic, and less likely to experience conflict. In other words, investing in girls' education isn't charity. It's one of the smartest strategies for building stronger nations. Breakthroughs also happen at the family level. Consider Maria, a woman from rural Mexico. She was the first in her family to graduate high school. Her education meant she could secure stable employment, and with her income, she ensured her younger sisters went to school too. Years later, her daughters are now in college. One opportunity for Maria has multiplied into opportunities for an entire family across generations. These stories and outcomes highlight a powerful truth. Girls' education has a ripple effect unlike anything else. When a boy is educated, he benefits. But when a girl is educated, she benefits, and so do her children, her family, her community, and her nation. It is not just personal growth, it is collective transformation. The breakthroughs we see around the world prove that the barriers we talked about earlier are not permanent. They can be overcome with persistence, with policy, with support, and with belief. Every success story is a reminder that the fight is worth it, and that the next breakthrough may come from a girl whose name we don't know yet, but whose potential is limitless. When we talk about the benefits of girls' education, it's easy to think only about personal success, better jobs, higher income, or independence, and those benefits are real. But the impact goes far beyond the individual. Educating girls creates a ripple effect that touches every part of society. It is one of the most powerful forces for progress that humanity has. Let's start with the economy. According to the World Bank, closing the education gap for girls could add trillions of dollars to the global economy. Why? Because when girls learn, they gain the skills to work, innovate, and build businesses. In many low-income countries, women make up nearly half the workforce in agriculture and small trade. Educated women are able to improve farming techniques, manage money, and create enterprises that lift entire communities. Imagine the untapped potential of millions of women who could contribute even more with just a few extra years of schooling. But the benefits don't end with money. Education changes health outcomes in dramatic ways. Studies show that educated mothers are twice as likely to vaccinate their children. they are more aware of nutrition, hygiene, and healthcare. As a result, child mortality rates drop sharply when mothers are educated. In fact, UNESCO estimates that if all mothers completed secondary school, child deaths could be reduced by half worldwide. That's millions of lives saved, simply because girls were given the chance to learn. Education also helps break cycles of poverty and inequality. A girl who finishes school is more likely to marry later, have fewer children, and raise a healthier family. Her children are more likely to go to school too, creating a cycle of opportunity that continues across generations. One educated girl becomes the foundation for an educated family, and that family strengthens the community around them. There's also the impact on society and governance. Educated women are more likely to vote, to participate in politics, and to demand accountability from leaders. In countries where women's education levels are higher, governments are often more stable, corruption is lower, and policies are more inclusive. In other words, girls' education is not only a human right, it's a building block of democracy. And let's not forget culture. When girls are educated, they challenge stereotypes. They become role models. They show their brothers, cousins, and neighbors that intelligence, leadership, and ambition are not limited by gender. This shift in perception has the power to reshape communities. Think of a village where the first girl becomes a doctor, or the first girl becomes a mayor. Suddenly, every child grows up believing that anything is possible, not just for boys, but for everyone. The benefits are also deeply connected to global challenges like climate change. Studies show that educated girls are more likely to make sustainable choices, to understand environmental issues, and to contribute to solutions. Project Drawdown, a leading climate research group, even ranks girls' education as one of the top strategies for reducing carbon emissions. Because when girls are educated, they tend to have smaller, healthier families and more economic power, both of which reduce pressure on resources. The evidence is overwhelming. Educating girls is not just about fairness. It is about creating healthier families, stronger economies, safer societies, and a more sustainable planet. It's about giving humanity its best chance at solving the challenges of our time. But perhaps the most powerful benefit is the one you cannot always measure. It's the confidence in a girl's eyes when she realizes she is capable. It's the dignity of being able to read, to write, to think, to dream. It's the freedom that comes from knowing she has choices. And when millions of girls share that same dignity, confidence, and freedom, the world itself becomes a brighter, stronger place. So when we talk about girls' education, we are not just talking about schools, textbooks, and classrooms. We are talking about a chain reaction that touches every part of society. We are talking about the difference between a world that limits half its population and a world that unleashes its full potential. We've seen the power of girls' education, the struggles, the breakthroughs, and the incredible benefits. But if the evidence is so clear, why are millions of girls still left behind? The truth is, even today, enormous challenges remain. The first barrier is poverty. For many families, sending children to school is a financial burden. Even when tuition is free, there are hidden costs: uniforms, books, transportation, and meals. Families struggling to survive often see education as secondary to immediate needs. And when choices must be made, boys are still more likely to be prioritized. Until we address poverty and create systems that support families, many girls will remain at home instead of in the classroom. The second barrier is cultural norms and gender stereotypes. In some communities, traditions continue to dictate that girls should marry young, manage households, and care for children. Education is seen as unnecessary or even threatening to these roles. These beliefs are powerful because they are passed down through generations, reinforced by community pressure. Breaking these cycles requires not just policies but cultural change, conversations that shift mindsets about what girls can and should achieve. The third barrier is safety. Across the world, too many girls face harassment, assault, or violence on their way to school. In conflict zones, schools are deliberately targeted, leaving girls especially vulnerable. In some countries, extremist groups openly oppose girls' education, using intimidation to keep girls out of classrooms. For parents, the risk of sending their daughters to school sometimes feels greater than the benefit. Until schools and communities are truly safe, education will remain out of reach for many. The fourth barrier is infrastructure and resources. Even where schools exist, they are often overcrowded, underfunded, and lacking basic facilities. For adolescent girls, the absence of private bathrooms or hygiene products can be enough to force them out of school. Teacher shortages, outdated materials, and limited training further weaken education systems. Without investment in quality, access alone is not enough. The fifth barrier is policy and political will. Many governments have pledged to support education, but promises don't always translate into action. Corruption, weak institutions, and shifting priorities leave programs underfunded or poorly implemented. International aid can help, but long-term progress depends on sustained commitment from leaders who believe that educating girls is not optional, but essential for national growth. And then, there are global crises. Pandemics, wars, and climate. Disasters hit girls hardest. The COVID-19 pandemic showed how quickly decades of progress can be reversed. Conflicts in places like Afghanistan, Sudan, and Ukraine continue to rob girls of stable schooling. Climate change brings floods, droughts, and displacement, forcing families to pull children, especially girls, out of classrooms. These crises remind us that progress is fragile, and protecting girls' education requires resilience in the face of global challenges. So, what still holds us back? Poverty, tradition, safety, infrastructure, weak policies, and crises. Each barrier is daunting, but none are impossible to overcome. Around the world, there are communities proving that change is possible, that when families are supported, when cultural leaders speak up, when schools are safe, when governments act with vision, and when international partners step in, girls thrive. The question is not whether we can solve these problems. We know we can. The question is whether we have the collective will to act and to act now, because every day a girl is denied education, the world loses something too. We've journeyed through the struggles, the breakthroughs, the life-changing benefits, and the challenges that still remain. And if there's one truth that stands above all, it's this. When you educate a girl, you change the world. A girl in school today could be the doctor who saves lives tomorrow. She could be the leader who brings peace to her country, the entrepreneur who lifts her community out of poverty, or the teacher who inspires the next generation. Each girl represents a possibility. And when millions of possibilities are unlocked, the future becomes limitless. But those futures depend on us, on whether we choose to break barriers, to challenge stereotypes, to invest in education, and to raise our voices for every girl who still dreams of sitting in a classroom. So here's my challenge to you: don't let this message stop here. Share it. Support organizations working for girls' education. Speak up when you see inequality. Believe in the power of every girl's potential, because the change begins with awareness, grows with action, and multiplies with hope. And if you believe in that hope, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more inspiring stories, and join me in building a world where every girl has the right to learn.